address those.
Nicely done, Kenna. We had no doubt.
A little sketchy there for a second.
Yeah, it started slow. But Kenna put it together. We got stuff into her and she put our words together and things that we borrowed, charts that we borrowed. And so
Yeah.
in terms of I guess our agenda, since we were called to order a while ago, but it's a disorderly order. We now have public comment and I see Pam Chadbourne back there and usually Pam has something to say, so come forward and share your thoughts.
Thank you. I'm Pam Chadbourne, Ethel Block, and I have from here and maybe a few things. First off, I don't know if you all know, but there's a public website with all the city meetings and the public goes to that and we get agendas. And for the quasi judicial and the legislative boards or commissions, they post the packet. But for the advisory boards, they've stopped posting the packet. I think that's a disservice to you and to the public, but what you do is important and it's important that the public understand it. The more education the public has access to, the better. And so I'm just going to say for the record, I think that the packets and documents should be posted. You've heard me also talk about minutes and those aren't available anymore either. And watching, 2 hours of a video is not the right way to convey, again, the value of what and the importance of what this board and other advisory boards do. Also, email. Your email should be there so that the public can address you. I think you may not know in January, all the emails for the boards and commissions were removed from the website. Is that absurd? You're not getting email, not because people don't care, but because there's no way to get a hold of you. And when I tried to write to the Historic Preservation Board a couple weeks ago, the clerk interfered. She said, "Oh, I'm not going to send it." I wrote to the clerk to say, "Could you relay this?" And she would not. So I think there's problems in the city between, I just want you to know there's some barriers that shouldn't be there. This is Littleton.
Yeah.
We used to have a great relationship between staff, boards, commissions, and the public, and it's the right way to do what we need to do. So the rest of this is kind of last month. I attempted to tell you that there's a whole bunch of stuff going on between downtown and Littleton Boulevard, which is uncoordinated with each other. It's not integrated is the way that I would put it in a project institutional or enterprise planning format. Institutional planning is a management function. It is a systems function, and it integrates the subsystem products, the technical subsystem products. The city has needed this for the past 10 years, but it's not done it. There are people called planners, but that's not what they're doing. So these inconsistent projects, the Littleton Boulevard sub-area plan, the enterprise zone, economic development has both the CEDS, Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy, and an incentive plan, which is in progress now, and Project Downtown. This year, you all should be working on the update of the transportation mobility plan, I think. The comprehensive plan and TMP were passed, if I'm right, October 2019. We said we were updating them every 5 years. I keep counting on my fingers because the way I get it is it's going to be 6 years at best.
That's 3 minutes, Pam.
Yeah. So I would like to see the TMP work on the TMP. Thank you.
Thanks, Pam. Okay. So is this the latest and greatest product that we have, Kim?
Yes. Are you good? Do you want me to go back to the agenda? Sorry, I just skipped.
That's okay. Well, I mean, you can if you want, but I think this is really what we're here for. So let's just wade into it.
So thank you all for sending all of your slides on time. That was awesome. I just put everything you gave to me into a template, but it's your words. I've made a couple changes. Brent and Aaron did take a look at it and had a couple minor revisions. So anything in there will be highlighted in yellow and I'll have a strike through so we can talk through it.
Okay.
And then we also have some comments in here of just some clarification items that they had noted. So
Very nice.
yeah, but floor is yours, so.
Can we do editorials? I want editorials
Yeah, for sure.
when we get to it.
Yeah, perfect, yep.
So I have literally 2 comments on the whole thing. I think it's fantastic. I really like it. My very first comment is, do you guys want to do introductions? Here at the beginning.
I think that's a good idea. I mean, even though we were,
We appointed you, but a little bit of.
it's been some time has passed.
Yeah,
And we don't interact often, and I know, if any of you are like I am, I appreciate a refresher on names, I remember faces, but I think that's great, and it also allows people to recognize, that we're from different parts of the city and maybe have some different, transportation, interests. And so I think that's a great add to that. Do you have any other observations for us that on how this ought to go, how much time we ought to expect, and anything else that we would want to know going in?
so, I think as like a piece of the agenda, I think 45 minutes will be kind of where you want to land.
Okay.
You'll lose, well, I won't name it. Some council members have less.
Interest maybe, or?
No, it's literally bandwidth, like you can watch the battery just go.
I get that.
And so I would, kind of try to think about how do we get this done with 45 minutes. And I think the fact that you put the recommendation up front, like the meat is there. And so if you spend the whole time on that first slide or third slide, and because what people are going to want to know, you very much will just say, why did you get to, why did you make this recommendation? And I think you guys all have really thoughtful answers to why. So, and I've told so I think the other thing is you guys I think you're making a nuanced, relatively sophisticated recommendation of kind of trying to thread the needle of not full on vision zero, but full on what's right for this community. And so, own and be excited about the fact that you're being nuanced and thoughtful. You know what I mean? That it is nuanced and thoughtful. I think I told the mayor, I gave both the mayor and the city manager, I didn't read any of the slides. So I just said, I think this is what they're going to say, and it is what's in here. And they were both very excited about it. They were like, that's what we want to hear. They didn't like, that recommendation is not, they weren't like, that's the recommendation we wanted to get, but they were like, we wanted to get a new
Type of recommendation.
Yeah, that's the type of recommendation they wanted to get. So.
And you think that they'll be comfortable with doing it sort of in an interactive way with?
So I've been trying to lay the groundwork for that. I've told them in the last meeting, I've told both the mayor and the city manager kind of personally. I've told them that you're here for a conversation, and then I kind of announced that at the last meeting. And so I've tried to lay the groundwork for it, and I will do it again. Like I'll say, this is the guidance I gave them in terms of how this is going to go. And so
I think that's great. And I don't want to show up and be on transmit for 45 minutes and walk away. I think there are a lot of voices here that I would like to be sure to hear from. And so.
And I think that's a little bit unique. Like you're not coming in with, I think the fact that you value the diversity of people's voices is a positive thing. But I would say that to them, like, we're not all 100, we all agree with this recommendation, but we have different perspectives. And you're here to, I think that's very valuable.
Yeah. And maybe that's a little nuanced too.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, I think in general, all of us want to make sure that we have safe travel modes for everybody. And in particular, we're emphatic that we want to see that addressed right away around schools. And your role, having been a board member on the LPS and now on the city council and being our rep here, can be the perfect bridge to make sure that we get that communication done. And so I think maybe we are in a unique position to try to help, or at least foot stomp, that is something that we care about, and it's what our neighbors care about. It's what my wife cares about when I tell her, hey, what'd you do at Transportation Board? It's those little kids that I think mostly capture our heart and want us to do something good for.
I see you guys as informed advocates. So I think, you know, saying that you're here to advocate, I think is valuable. Thing. All right.
So, all right.
One thing too, I want to make sure that we're putting in who is speaking on each slide in the speaker notes as well.
Okay.
FYI to you and to make myself remember. So.
Well, so I'll probably introduce the board.
Yeah.
And then maybe if I remember, try to make some of the points that we just talked about right now. And then let's just march through this, and then we'll try to add those as we go through. I'm happy to talk the agenda too. Let's go one more.
And are you all still good with this, the flow of the presentation when you were looking at it?
I am.
Okay.
Yeah. And then what I'd like to say about this is that just as we discussed, we wanted to put the recommendation up front so that you understood what we were including in advance, and then provide some substantiation for that to follow. And so I'd like to go over that to begin with, and then let each member of the board that worked on the sections begin to kind of flesh that out and explain how it is that we arrived at those conclusions. And if somebody was, for example, misassigned, because like, you know, Kelly, we just drafted you into one of those. If there's something that you feel passionate about in another area, I mean, I think there's room within the discussion for somebody to speak up and add something without it becoming a free-for-all. So let's spend a few minutes on this. We support Safer Streets Littleton. We aim to expand it into a sustainable program. Our mission is to create a connected, comfortable, and comprehensive multimodal network by integrating the principles of Vision Zero and complete streets. We strive to create behavioral and cultural change, championing a balanced transportation system for a safer community. I mean, I think that's a nice summary. It's a lot of words. And I think until we explain a little more about that.
I will speak, so Matt and I did this slide.
Yeah.
And I will say, as I was reading through the whole presentation
Yeah.
this week, one of the things I realized is that I guess I'm not very clear. Are we recommending Vision Zero or are we not? Because I
I was
feel like
just
we've,
about to say.
I feel like we've gone back and forth
Right.
and nowhere in here. If we're not recommending Vision Zero, nowhere in here do we actually say we're not recommending Vision Zero by itself. We are, because I mean, we do say we want to take, you know, we want to integrate principles from it.
Right, so yeah, if we were to be asked point blank, do you recommend we adopt Vision Zero?
And I think the answer to that was no.
Well,
Let me offer that. I know you're here to advise, but we're a citizen board, and I don't think that we're necessarily impressed with the moniker Vision Zero, but with the principles of reducing accidents and injuries to zero is something that we embrace. We think that the Safer Streets Littleton description of that maybe does a better job of explaining what we're all about. Now, go ahead and offer what your thoughts were.
Yeah, I mean, I is gonna say that I think that we don't need to be concerned with the name of Vision Zero. I think that we already have, yeah, a great title with what we're going through. I mean, I was at a conference earlier this week where I met somebody in the industry who is a resident of Littleton, and from, you know, for all intents and purposes, they understood Safer Streets Littleton as our local safety action plan work. So I think that we don't need to, We maybe need to even have like an effort of trying to communicate that with city council of saying, we understand that there is this sort of brand of Vision Zero. That's not Littleton's approach. Littleton's approach is specific to Littleton, which is Safer Streets Littleton. Do we have the same goals or mission of Vision Zero, the brand and, you know, that,
Very high overlap.
yeah, there is a lot of same, you know, principles or whatever, you know, terms we want to use, but I think that we don't need to be, you know, we're Littleton and we are unique in our own ways and we have been forever. And so we don't need to just attach that sort of buzzword thing to what we're doing when that's already what I think a lot of the community associates this work with. It's what's most important is that goal of zero traffic injuries and fatalities on our roadways. And then, but really ultimately, it's not just that the Safer Streets Littleton wants to get at. It's that we want to have that as one of the goals, but we want to create a community that makes it safe for anybody, no matter what age, ability, wherever they live, can get out in whatever mode they choose and do so safely.
And
So
when
I
we
think-
say we integrate, sorry,
So the editorial that you guys made, changing it to the principles of instead of principles, sets that up.
Yeah.
And so all we have to do is say to council when we're giving this is, so when we use the term Vision Zero, it is simply a way to encompass the entire package.
I mean, what do the two words mean, right? Vision, zero. The vision, the goal is zero. That's all the principle of Vision Zero that we are really wanting to truly kind of follow after in a lot of ways. I mean, not all, but there are many more. But I think that like if to make it most simple or digestible for city council, because I think it's just that term that everybody keeps hearing thrown around.
And I-
And so people have a lot of
I'm
like,
gonna jump in because I don't agree necessarily.
Yeah.
I don't like with what you're saying, like again, I'm not like looking for people to die in the city, but when I think about like the principles of Vision Zero that I thought we had all agreed on, with some of the things that are, there's actually a few slides later, things like, you know, systems approach. And that human failing has to be integrated into our engineering, that we can't just build everything assuming everybody's gonna be perfect. Those were the principles I thought we were subscribing to, not necessarily the idea that we were gonna get to zero fatalities. Because that we were targeted for that, because it's, first of all, it's not realistic. Secondly, it means putting a lot more resources into our high injury network opposed to into school zones and other areas that are not high injury networks.
Yeah,
And I think we could still, I don't think it directs the resources. I think we still have autonomy to direct resources. And I think stating a goal of zero is, I mean, it's, sure, would it qualify as a SMART goal, you know, in that acronym? Perhaps not, but it's unacceptable to say we wouldn't try zero.
I think this fundamental tension of the injuries that happen on our roads are on the thoroughfares. And you guys, I believe, are focused on improving mobility throughout the city. And that, I think this tension that if we really focused on Vision Zero, you would only be focused on Santa Fe. We actually care a lot more about more than just Santa Fe. And that's the tension I think that you're trying to navigate. And I think that's, for me, that's the exciting part of this conversation, is it's more than the people who run into I mean, I watched a guy run into a light pole in Santa Fe. It was unpleasant.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we'll measure success by, I mean, honestly, you know, and we can say this or not, but within, you know, the Safer Streets Littleton, right? We have to find different ways to measure success, because will it be that we hit zero or not as our defining way of saying we've succeeded or we've made progress? Well, that won't work, because you're right. Most likely that will not happen. So we need to.
Well, but in order to make it happen, to my mind, it means we gotta focus on Santa Fe, we gotta focus on mineral, because that's where all the serious injuries and deaths happen. So if you wanna get rid of them, you gotta go to where the injuries are to get rid of them. That's been always my challenge with this, as opposed to saying, no, we're gonna focus on Windermere, where there haven't been, to my knowledge, any severe injuries or deaths. But we all see that it feels unsafe and it doesn't feel right to be sending our kids down that street.
But I will say this much, it's like, we can focus on key problem points, but if we don't focus on also maintaining the entire system, when we fix one, another will become the next problem. But we gotta improve the entire system to do that. And it's just a question of that becomes kind of the specifics, which I think is something we will be discussing at a later point. Once we have the agenda, figuring out what to focus on. We are just figuring out the idea. At this point, once the idea comes, we can discuss what the actual focus and allocation of priorities are.
I see a lot of "and" in this. The one of the problems that I had with us adopting the title of Vision Zero is it almost offers that up as the single metric that is everything that matters. And if you had a fatality or a really serious accident, does that invalidate the program, or does it say we failed? I don't think it does. I think that there will be accidents, but it doesn't lessen the need to try to work on the root causes of why those happened. And the fact that we're taking a systemic approach to this and trying to make it workable for all modes, I think that's why Safer Streets is a better title. And so maybe we can have a little of that conversation as we go through the presentation.
So I guess that's so coming full circle to my original comment on this, which is, do we need to more clearly state in here that we are recommending the city not adopt Vision Zero as a branding, but
I think
instead
so.
As
that
a
we are
branding, as a title,
as a
sure.
title, or is
Sure.
it, well, we're not gonna call ourselves a Vision Zero city. We don't recommend.
So I was gonna take it to the next level. Would we try to pursue, like on the Vision Zero network? Like, would we try to, and sorry, I'm directing it to you, Kenneth, because I feel like that would be an initiative that inevitably the city would take up if we wanted to like join, right? Where you go to that, I forget what the group is, but you
Yeah.
go on there and you see the cities that have declared. And so, right, would we say Littleton should be on that, you know?
See, I think the answer is no. I think that there's very little value from the research we did. It isn't the joining that's important. It's the action that follows it. And so, correct me if I'm wrong, if you feel differently, but I think what we talked about was that actions matter and that we weren't excluding our ability to apply for any of the monies that might go with Vision Zero, but that,
Are we not?
we are not. We don't have to, say we're under the heading of that.
Okay.
And so for that reason, I don't see a lot of value in saying, oh, we've got to, say me too.
Yeah, I'm relatively agnostic on it. I guess it would be more, is there value for our city staff to be a part of that network?
I don't think necessarily. I think a lot of the funding opportunities out there are not going to explicitly make you say that you are Vision Zero. Unless it's a Vision Zero specific, but like the, Safe Streets for All program, which is really geared towards Vision Zero type work, it doesn't call out specifically. Maybe Emily can come back.
I feel like that's what we talked about last time.
Yeah.
You just have to have the safety plan. Is it,
Oh, that's right, you need the plan.
yeah, is it the mission or is it the goal? I mean, whose mission, our mission, part of it is, who is our? Is it the transportation?
City.
City,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're recommending
okay.
the city and across all, our approach is, this is gonna be sort of multidisciplinary. Everybody's gonna get on board. We're not gonna look to one person and say, oh, you're responsible for, zero. It's everybody's job and we're part of that. So, my reading on that is that,
Maybe you want to make it more explicit, say the city's mission.
Yeah, I was gonna say, instead of we, maybe we should say the TMB, and instead of our, we should say City of Littleton or something like that.
Okay.
I guess back to your point, do we put in the recommendation, we do not recommend vision zero, but.
Well, I think if you say we're not recommending vision zero, I mean, this is a positive statement. And I think making positive statements is a good communication tool.
And I think I mean, if we feel it necessary to call out, like, we want to use the terminology already in place and starting to become vernacular in the city.
Yeah.
We want to use the naming of Safer Streets Littleton.
I don't
Like,
think,
that's a positive.
yeah, I like that.
Kelly, everybody read the newspaper that came out today, correct? That we-
Right there, front page?
Yep. Safer Streets Littleton, all over the front page.
Yeah. And I think that's good. And I don't know that we have to be explicit about everything. I think we can talk through some of those things. And, I don't think anybody's offended by the idea of Vision Zero. It's just that, it's,
Safer Streets tells the story.
it does.
Yeah.
And that's that's kind of what I think the group of us talked about.
Yeah.
So is there anything else
I
that,
think we're on the same page.
okay, all right.
And I think, quite frankly, again, a lot of the community many of the community who are like in tune with this space, right?
Yeah.
Know what the word Vision Zero means, will see this and know, hey, this is what they're going for, but they're using their own like Littleton take to it. And those who don't will not have to then do their research and then go and see potential things where it's like Vision Zero goes, where we know that Vision Zero hasn't succeeded. There's so many articles out there that talk about it. And like, we don't want people to have that sort of mindset. We want them to think of this as its own unique effort within Littleton. And that's what Safer Streets Littleton does.
Yeah. Love it.
Okay, two things before we move on. It sounds like everyone was okay with the principal's word changing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I think that was a good edit.
Who is speaking on the slide? Is it Tom? Okay,
I'm gonna introduce it, but as we talked about, we may come back to this, and this may be, we may have other voices, but I'm gonna start it,
perfect.
okay? Then let me get into background. So, Kelly, do you wanna talk to this one? You pull this one forward, and I think you know what it's about.
Any edits here? Are we good?
I mean, should it be more on? Well, do we get into the principles?
It's the next one.
Okay. Right.
Will this be you too, Kelly?
Yeah. You. go ahead.
Yeah, that's fine. Part of me
Those
wonders
two
if
go
they
together.
can't, yeah, they
Do we
do.
just
I mean,
need
if they
one?
could only, right, part of me feels perhaps.
Since we're trying to downplay
Turn it into one.
Vision Zero as a
Yeah,
terminology.
Let's go back to that slide and see, does that belong in the backup?
I mean, to me, it's the last, it's those two bullets, the core principle and the responsibility of safety being shared. That really needs to be said. It's lovely. I mean, it makes, of course, it came from Sweden.
From Sweden with love.
It's like a given. So I don't know.
Maybe put that on the next slide, is that what you're trying to accomplish?
I think so.
And then get rid of,
I don't know if it's too mushy, but.
Yeah, or, well, it starts to get, it may be too busy.
honestly,
It might be that you
I
just,
get rid of the stuff on the side, I don't like that. Vision, how many traffic, is it one, is it, like, I think your other
Okay.
things actually might go better there.
Okay.
What do you think? And then we can just move that slide to the back and.
Mhm.
okay,
Love the idea. Making a little more parsimony, I love that word.
Make it a little more what?
Parsimonious.
I love that you used that word.
I have like 3 SAT words that I use, that's one of them.
Yeah.
Also, use plethora.
Yeah,
I love that word.
it's getting a lot of play these days, so you know, you may not get through your SAT with plethora anymore. You might have to up your game.
Great SAT, audacity, another great SAT
I
word.
don't know that one.
Audacity?
Oh, audacity.
Audacity.
Audacity. Yes, I do know. Thank God I don't have to take that test.
We won't even ask. Okay,
So the first one introduces the idea of vision zero.
Yep.
It's about,
uh-huh.
and then this one is,
Who's playing?
Yeah, it's just a little, it's more background. I mean, this was the section, we said we were gonna give a little background. Um, is this too much background or?
I think, yeah, I mean, you know how, you guys know, like when you give a presentation, you're really not supposed to talk to everything on the slide. You're supposed to-
That's exactly
you're supposed
right.
to have a story in the slide, your background. To me, this is like, we just say, you know, we talk about vision zero and then we're just saying, it's been pretty widely adopted. Like
Yeah.
this is a big program across the
Yeah.
country. So, you know, it is probably the thing that most people have heard of if they're thinking about this type of thing. Move on, next one.
Yeah, right. So Dr. Cog's all about it. Denver's on it, Boulder's on it, Fort Collins. In Littleton, we're a little more nuanced. We're a little more local.
Yeah, like
Do you want me to pull the list of all of the, well, so there are at least 8 or more communities in the region who received funding to create safety action plans through the Safe Streets for All federal funding. So there's communities like Castle Pines and Thornton who are doing safety action plans.
I think it'd be really important to point out the ones that aren't Vision Zero that are still getting
Getting the
safety action
funding.
plan support.
If you can get a list like that.
Well,
Venn diagram.
I mean, again, it's all about the term, like, they're one and the same.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
but it's the idea that like, yes, we have these communities who have adopted them, but you have at least 8 or more communities in the region who are in the process of creating a plan that we are considering right now, who are communities that are quite frankly way more similar to a community like Littleton than these.
Yeah, and
I'd
maybe
be happy to, I have a list, I can pull it and send it to you all if you'd like.
that'd be fine, and it'd be good to have it in the speaker's notes. But maybe that last bullet, rather than just saying Thornton is in process, analysis, whatever, just that
Like
multiple other communities in process.
other smaller community or other
Yeah.
like smaller size community, I don't know which one.
And I think it's important to say that their safety plans are in process, because that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to focus not on joining the list of flashy titles, but to really create a plan and then translate that plan into actions that make a difference.
I mean, yeah, some of them, the title might end up being like, you know, Thornton Vision Zero Plan. Some might be Castle Pines Comprehensive Safety Action Plan. It, you know, it's a title.
Yeah, so the SS4A, and you know, this is just one funding source, right? But they say the goal of a safety action plan is to develop a holistic, well-defined strategy to prevent roadway fatalities and serious injuries. So
Got that.
We're all about it.
it's, yeah.
Well, so is council gonna ask us, why not Vision Zero?
Well, I guess my vision is they could, I think that's possible. But I think it's also possible, kind of the way you've laid this out, that you're gonna explain that in the process, and so they won't. I mean, I don't know, it's possible, but
But I feel comfortable answering it.
Of course. I just, you know, so we're giving them all this background on Vision Zero, and then we're not gonna play, so.
well,
I mean, again, not to play like devil's advocate, but it is Vision Zero. It's just that we're not using the term. Like, we are talking about the principles, the missions, the goal, like it's just that we are not using the terminology.
Oh, exactly, but so is council gonna say, well, why not?
Why not use the terminology?
Yeah.
We're making the good
I
idea.
feel like they're going to like the fact that we're Littletonizing it.
Because we're
The
Littleton.
group that's
We're-
gonna
Exactly.
be on board with
But I
that.
think you're also saying there's more to this than traffic fatalities. That there is more to this, and that you're trying to be more comprehensive about that. So,
So do we need this slide?
think so.
Well, let's.
Safety action plans in Colorado. How about you give it that title instead of Vision Zero?
I like that.
But then do we,
I mean, yes, you will see that all three of them say Vision Zero on it, but
oh, so just changing?
like local safety action plans.
What about the ones you were mentioning, the Castle Pines and stuff? I feel those have some.
Yeah, all of those, again, like they were given funding to create a local safety action plan, whatever title they give it. Safer streets for Thornton, Thornton comprehensive safety, you know, whatever title they come up with, but the concept is that it's, you know, a plan that identifies, you know, this goal and strategies to get there, does data analysis, all this stuff.
And to your other question, do we leave it here or put it in backup? Let's keep going through this
Okay.
and then ask ourselves the question, if the sweet spot for everybody's attention span is 45 minutes, is this where, you know, when we're all finished tonight, do we walk out of here saying that that's important to be up front or in the back?
Kelly, this is you again.
What am I? Oh, yes, I guess.
Yeah.
Sorry, I did not ask that very well.
I'm saying get rid of it, obviously.
Yeah, that was too transparent. Okay,
So now we're going into what the TMB has studied.
okay.
This, who's taking this? Is this yours?
No. And I
This
can,
wasn't
I can
mine,
keep
was it?
going. Yeah.
No.
I love public speaking.
Who recognizes this animal?
Not I, sister.
Okay. Did I put that in there? Did somebody else put that in there?
I mean, the only one missing is Matt.
I don't remember
I
the
think we're Shane.
graphic.
Matt and I did not put that.
I think I put the graphic in.
Oh,
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
Explore ideas behind complete streets. Okay. TMB input to council on lessons learned 7/18/20.
Yeah, and so I remember putting those bullet points together, so I'll talk about this. What I wanted to do was explain to council, hey, we went and did, as part of what we've done, we went and looked at what's behind, complete streets. We looked at peer cities and seen what their experience was with Vision Zero. And, we did that outreach, and what we came up with was an idea that said, let's try to find something that really achieves those Vision Zero goals, but does it in a way that is responsive to the conditions on the ground here in Littleton that meets our community. And that's why we think that the Safer Streets Littleton is going to help us to work on all modes and really take a systems approach that's informed by feedback and data that's kind of a closed loop. So that's what I was thinking about on those bullets. And I think your graphic showed that that action plan is going to be key, sort of the core principle, and it's going to embrace the ideas of those other three rings around there.
So I feel like this slide, particularly the bullets, just establishes that we did our homework. Really, you're just saying we've done our homework, we've been thinking about this, and that's some of the points that you made, Tom, are very important, but maybe later in the conversation. This really is just, we've done our homework. We looked at a lot of this.
Okay, let's keep ticking. So,
Who's presenting this slide?
hey,
And you're okay with the graphic? Shane created this
Was it
graphic.
really 5? I thought it was 7 cities we reached out to.
I think I shortchanged somebody. Was it 7? Let's put 7 up there.
I think maybe
You had 2, right?
At least one, some had 2.
Yeah.
All right. Going once.
17. 24 cities.
All 50.
They won't check our homework.
Right.
I'll swear to anything you want me to.
Thank you, appreciate that.
So some of the lessons learned. We need this collaborative safety plan that designed to eliminate serious injuries and fatalities. And it's gotta work, you know, it's gotta address all traffic modes. And we need, elements of that, we need to make a sustained effort to do this. This isn't gonna be something that's a one-off that we can assign to one person and you know, check back a year or two later. It's gotta go across all the departments, it's not gonna be siloed. And that we're looking for something, not just a one-off grant, and then we're done with it. But this has gotta be embedded into our policies across really across all city departments. I mean, that's enforcement.
Commitment, it's a commitment. This
Yeah.
is not just we're gonna kind of throw something at the board and walk away.
Yeah, and we recognize in talking to some of these other cities that it's actions, not the slogans or statements that are most important. We need to have consistent enforcement of traffic laws. We need great and persuasive public communication so that people understand the why and how, and we need to get them on our side.
So this is a really meaty slide. I really like it. Should it not be, should it be Safer Streets Littleton should include, as opposed to lessons learned by this TMB?
I like that. I don't know how we got started on lessons learned, but I think that was one of the things that, you know, in doing our homework.
Right.
So say that again. Safer Streets Littleton
Should include.
should include.
Needs to include.
Needs to include, or this is the meat and potatoes of your recommendation. Like, this is what, I mean, you made the recommendation and then this is what it should look.
Yeah.
Do we put a subheading there with the lessons learned from the research and investigation?
Or maybe I just talked to that.
Just say it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like-
And
like
I
a
don't
lot
know
of
that
these-
we actually need a colon up there. I've never been good at punctuating title slides, but I'm anti-punctuation.
I'm not anti-punctuation, I'm just failed punctuation.
So Tom, I agree. I would just state it. And you say, and honestly, most if not all of these came from lessons we learned from the other cities that we.
Yeah.
This is the synopsis.
So look at her. She's so good. She's putting it in my notes section so I won't forget.
Tom, are you taking this one too?
Comment on the third one. When I read this, I was wondering if the first bullet, it's not, I mean, consistent, yes, but is it increasing enforcement? Expanding? We've talked about, you know, hiring police staff and increasing.
So, like consistent and active.
I think
Consistent to me seems just more the same.
I will push back. The way I read consistent is people know that that there's enforcement out there. Like, it's not like, oh, we have like 1 week a month that we got there with the speed gun and then the rest of the time. It's like, once that week's done, you're good to go.
Yeah.
End of the month.
Yeah, whatever it is. Yeah.
I can remember at the beginning, you know, back to school time, and we're getting into this right now, where I would be really on guard around Arapahoe High School, because I knew that they were gonna have the black and whites out there with the radar guns, and that's good. I mean, that's okay. The fact that it made me aware is a good thing. But when I think of consistency, it is that it's every time you come into that school zone, you better be aware.
And not to throw our PD under the bus, but I mean, they basically told us in that meeting, like, oh yeah, now that school's out, we're not really doing this anymore. Like, that's not consistent. Consistent is
Yeah.
you don't speed ever because you might get nailed.
Yeah, so that's more of a mindset. I read it as an action, like we're actually going to expand staff, increase patrolling, enforcement, writing tickets.
Well,
So it's-
and we heard a little of that. We did hear them say that they're hiring additional officers. And we think that part of where that new resource should be directed is around these, particularly around these school zones.
Excuse me.
So but again, if you feel during the presentation, Michael, like it's not coming through, just as you did here, offer a clarification, and hopefully we'll get through it.
Before we move on from this slide, can I make one request?
But of course,
That, again, it's on the third section, we put the public communication as the first bullet point of the consistent enforcement of traffic
I love
laws.
it.
I tend to go down the whole like journalism path of like, you put everything, most important stuff should go first.
Yeah.
And I feel like, because we're gonna say it later anyways, we think that getting that public communication, getting the change of, like winning over hearts and minds is the most important part. Enforcement is important. But to my
But it
mind,
comes
it's
after
second
you've
tier.
told people what's coming.
Yes, you don't enforce first.
Yeah, no, I like it. We want to explain what we're
Smack them
doing.
first and then tell them why you smacked them.
This is why I hit you.
You do what you think is in your own best interest, but by the way, here's your call.
Yeah. This is a tough board. Okay,
All right, we good?
I think for now. Yeah.
All right, goals and objective.
Hey, how many slides did we wind up with total?
Right now we're sitting at 27.
That's too many slides.
See, so we definitely.
Well, let's go back up right now and push, which one, was back into the backup?
The one with just like, how many cities and, the
I
speaking,
think
it was
this
about
one-
the safer action plan.
I think that one,
That one can go.
With the vision
all right,
zero buffer.
okay.
Yeah.
Put that into,
It's like an
into backup.
appendix. Like,
Yeah,
put
in the
like
appendix.
Like,
Yeah,
What is our slide number goal, would you think?
I would say, in 45 minutes, 15 slides is max. That's 3 minutes a slide and this group will never do 3 minutes a slide.
And I will say, I was putting in like these title slides, so
Oh, that's 27, including the title slides.
We're actually 21.
Oh, geez, Kenna.
Oh, well, that helps. That gets us closer to the mark. But you know, if you're at 20 slides, 20 content slides, that's easily an hour.
you're about 17 slides with substantive, like with content.
Okay, we're getting
Not
close.
including titles, agenda, that type.
We can maybe trim a few more, but let's keep going.
Okay, so, and I put on here a slide with all 6 goals and objectives, and then I split into each specific one that has more detail. I don't know if you wanna keep this overall one, or if this is too repetitive.
Yeah.
Or you could put it at the end as a
Or we could put it.
Yeah, cause it might force a pause on this one that isn't necessary because we're taking the time for each of them.
Yeah, I think that's a good point.
summary slide. Make that a
All
summary
right.
slide.
So who wants to talk to this one? Who's its,
Okay,
Who wrote
parent?
some of those words? Raise your hand for
These
these.
were Dave and I.
Okay, all right, then you guys,
We were at Denver Beer.
What was that?
And I'll confess, we were at Denver Beer doing.
as you should.
I think some of your best work, could be, inspired by Denver beer.
Who wants it?
Who wants it? Don't
Everybody raise their
say
hand
it,
once.
don't,
I mean, there's 6 of them, so you got, you can go.
yeah.
Feel strongly about this one, Dave?
I'll take it, sure.
Okay,
It's easy.
Okay,
I have a couple questions
Yeah.
from staff. So from Erin, there's a reference to multimodal arterials. Little confused by the reference to arterial roadways in item number 2. Whose safety are we talking about on these arterials, for bikes, pets, cars, or all of the above? So this is twofold. This multimodal arterials here, and then the arterial roadways that are mentioned here. So I guess what was your intent with the multimodal arterials?
Wouldn't it be more accurate to like specify Santa Fe and Broadway on those, since those are kind of intended streets for that, if I'm correct?
The way I remember, we got into this whole semantics thing about like, what does the word arterial mean? Cause I think the idea was we were talking about building the bike network so that there were literally like non-motorized, the priority was non-motorized traffic where there would be all these roads that got you into the system.
Like the comparative, like we talk about arterials for cars, as in that's the thoroughfare prioritizing car travel. And these would be thoroughfares throughout this community that prioritize people biking.
Getting into the network.
Yeah. Like getting into the network or?
The primary way is through the network, yes, I'm sorry, my bad, yes, like it would be the primary bike paths and walking
So
paths through
I'm
the.
stretching the engineer mind, what would be another way to say arterial, because arterial is an engineering class.
Exactly, that's what we were, is it
That's where I think we're getting hung up on that is we're.
What else would we name it?
bike boulevard, bikeway like in Denver, but the problem is that we wanna clarify with you all is a lot of these roadways that prioritize bike travel or pedestrian travel over vehicle travel don't always have dedicated bike infrastructure on them, because the idea is that it's such a low volume street with vehicle travel. And if you do countermeasures at the intersections and mid-block, whether it's, you know, raised crossings or, you know, curb bulb outs, all sorts of things that we could do to really reduce the car flow of traffic and the speeds of the car traffic, that you would be so comfortable. That's how like Denver has done it. Boulder, they call them like Boulder's neighborhood greenways, Denver's neighborhood bikeways. Portland, it's the same sort of concept, but this is not a dedicated, protected, you know, infrastructure for a cyclist type of
Would a
thing.
bikeway, is a bikeway a better term that doesn't confuse, you know, that's kind of what our thinking was when we were calling like a bicycle arterial, is a safer term to just call it a bikeway?
Well, I guess what we're trying to
Or does that have
understand is
another
that the concept of what you're wanting, these connectors, are they connectors that require, I mean, obviously it's gonna be different based on the street context, but are we looking at more full-scale protected, like a really nice protected bike lane type of connections throughout our community? Or are we looking at streets that are maybe still shared traffic, but it's so deprioritizing the vehicle mode, right? We're like putting diverters up, we're doing, you
I
know.
think you're getting into really into the weeds, I think the answer is right there. What we're looking for is high comfort, well-connected, dedicated, protected facilities. So whatever that means, I mean,
Yeah, I
So
don't,
we can just take
I
out
don't
the
think we need
term.
this, because I think the idea is that we want
Yeah.
a better connected bike and pedestrian network. We don't know what the facilities are going to be necessarily.
We don't need,
We
yeah,
want a
we don't know the
network.
name of them.
And that's not our job to say, to specify all the how at this level. We're just saying, hey,
You're gonna put me out of a job, so.
yeah, surprise us. Yeah, surprise us, Kenneth. Come up with something that,
So basically, we wanted to say that we want a better connected bike and pedestrian network so we can hook into the trails and the existing methodology of getting around this city in a high comfort, well-connected, dedicated and protected, protection being a fairly loose term because it doesn't have to be dedicated, right?
it may not always be,
And
yeah.
it may not
It'll
always
look
be.
different on different streets, right?
But on the arterial roadways,
Right. This,
then we need to look at some form of more structured protection.
right.
For my own understanding, when we say high comfort, we're talking about a person's feeling
Yeah.
around
I think so.
Yes,
kind of perception of safety and how comfortable they feel on.
yeah, and I think a lot of times when we talk about high comfort too, it's talking about, it's not just comfortable for the folks that are on their bicycles every single day, right? It's also comfortable for families with small children, or, you know, it's a wide range of people who ride bikes.
High comfort is the lowest common denominator in this in terms of skill set.
So the
read runs.
the graphic describes what the safe systems approach is, but you guys also mentioned the complete streets approach. Do you need to explain what that is?
It's supposed to be in the background section.
That's fine. No, you can say, if you want more information about the complete streets, it's, you know, it's in this other slide. I'm just.
Yeah.
I don't think it is that, is it?
Could we import the Safer Streets logo above the Safe System logo? This is like a visual reminder of that branded logo that Littleton has adopted.
Well, I'm not sure that we've adopted or committed to recommending complete streets for every street. I mean, that, if I understand complete streets, it says that there's there's sort of like a dedicated, a route on every street for pedestrians, bikes, cars.
So it's,
No.
it's contextual.
It's literally what we were just saying about bikes, like in the idea that like some streets we're gonna want protected bike infrastructure because of the context of, you know, whether the volume of the road or the land use around it. Or some streets we're gonna be like, you know what, this is totally okay with us having no bike lane or just a total, or, you know, hey, here we need a really nice, big, wide sidewalk because we have huge volumes of pedestrian traffic. Or, hey, this is a rural roadway where we just need a really nice, wide, what's the word, shoulder, you know, for people to be able to ride their bike, or maybe people are walking for some reason and you know, it's literally, complete streets is all about, think of context when you, of complete streets.
Okay.
It doesn't mean every single countermeasure that we need for every mode goes on every street.
All right.
But so it's not the safer, it's the, you know, what is, just not everyone's gonna know what complete streets is. That's what I was really getting at. You can tell what safe system approach is just by reading the.
Yeah, sometimes the more of these terms we throw around, the more confusing it gets. And
Yeah. So the definition from Dr. Cog is that the complete streets approach ensures pedestrians, cyclists, transit riders, and other multimodal travelers have equitable access to safe and comfortable streets comparable to motor vehicles. So you want equitable access, but not every road has every mode prioritized necessarily.
yeah, but I could read into that if it isn't available on my street, it's not equitable. And everybody could make that argument. And pretty soon it says that every street, you know what, I don't have a streetcar at my house either. And that's really not equitable.
Well, it's talking about like land use a lot of times,
think
like
that's-
land use is a huge part of complete streets. And so if you live in a really dense residential area, but there's no other like
You calling my
business
neighbors
or
against-
that like, yeah, you have to understand, okay, well, we want a street that's really like a local neighborhood street that's gonna allow people to walk and bike around the neighborhood. But when you start moving to, you know, your local, if you have like a main street in the neighborhood where you've got businesses and stuff, and you're like, okay, well, now we need to account for the fact that people might be driving around here a lot more because they need to park potentially. And we've also maybe got transit that comes through here. So let's make sure we've got like good, it's just sort of understanding that each roadway, especially with the land use that we provide, has to provide a safe and equitable access for each mode that needs to get there.
So are you comfortable presenting this? Do you want extra graphics on the side, or does that just make
Yeah,
your
never
job?
mind. Yeah, can I make a suggestion
Yeah.
that we remove the graphic? Because I think, given the time frame we have, we should try to avoid getting into explaining complete streets versus safe systems.
Yeah,
Like, Vision Zero is as far as we're gonna go, because that was what the actual one that was brought up to us.
yeah.
And then we talk about we're incorporating principles of these others. We're actually talking about the principles right now.
Yeah,
I think that's all that really matters.
I think you're right, and let
Is there
let the
any-
professionals get into the design.
And if city council would like to have another study session for another hour at some point, we can talk to them about some of these things.
Well, and,
We'll let
yeah,
them-
you're right, because
But I guess the
we
only
got
thing is
discussion at the end.
that graphic shows a systems approach, which is one of the unique nuances, I think, of Vision Zero. Do we speak about like systems change, right? That's what it's showing. And that's complex, so if we decide this isn't the time and place, you know, that can be. But does it come up anywhere else that we like call out? I mean, it gets in there and maybe we don't need to get lost in the like the technical nerdy language of it.
Let's
as
not.
we-
Yeah, no, I think,
Change.
I get your point, and so let me go back to the guy that gets to
It has
present
to
this.
try and-
Can you leave that in there without having it wrap us around the axle, as we have for the last 10 or 15 minutes here?
Here.
Or not trying to add a slide, even though what I'm about to say would be adding a slide that just briefly touches on safe systems and complete streets. So you can just say, these are two principles of how to implement it.
And we can.
And you just go, in the interest of time, safe systems and complete streets is a whole new topic of discussion and.
How about you get rid of the word complete streets on there? I just think you say that you implement principles from safe systems approach. And the safe systems approach means that we're gonna consider all the modes as we do this plan.
Well, or you could even say, use a systemic approach towards implementing safety throughout our community without having to use that safe system approach. Like, cause that's the idea, is that we are getting, it's a systemic going at it from more than one angle. And yeah, if
I'm okay with that.
if we don't wanna get into the complicated terminology in this meeting, I think that that's totally fine to just sort of say, and same with complete streets, right? We say context sensitive streets, right? Like,
I think that's the right recommendation. You're gonna have, the audience has different levels of knowledge too, right? So Steve is gonna be like, he's gonna say, do you mean safe streets? And you're gonna say yes, and then keep going.
yeah.
And Robert's gonna go, I don't know what any of those things mean, but let's just keep going. So just be aware that there's variation in knowledge. And so you might get kind of a specific question, but don't let Steve take you off task. Like, yeah, you're right, let's keep going.
I think throwing too many buzzwords, it's the same as like when I started my job with Dr. Cog and they were throwing acronyms at me like for the first, I was like, what? You know, yeah, we don't wanna make them feel like they are not educated or smart or anything. And so we want them to,
We have plenty of occasions.
you know, but you know, you don't want any, when you're in a presentation, you want people to be, you know, engaged in it, but not feeling like they're being.
Clear English words are better than titles that are loaded with meaning that we're all gonna have to explain and then.
Shane feels that we should remove the graphic.
Okay.
Shane's not here.
I agree.
That's,
Listening into this thing?
yeah, he's online. He's having internet issues though, so I am speaking on behalf of Shane.
Well, how much time do we want to spend on this slide? If we have the graphic up there, we have a high chance of having additional time. If we take the graphic off, it takes some of the presentation time and allows us to focus it in different.
The next steps are more important than this.
Yeah, and I guess sorry Shane, I didn't mean to throw you under the bus, but I think the whole idea is that we don't necessarily want you all to have to speak on safe systems, right? That's staff's job, not your job. So you don't want us to get down a rabbit hole of that somehow you're having tried to explain something.
No, I'm good. Calling it a systemic approach satisfies me.
So easy to work with.
Implement
Systemic, holistic, like, you know, comprehensive, whatever. There's so many words we can use.
implement a systemic approach in context sensitive streets. I don't know if that's.
No, just.
Maybe just a systemic approach.
Mhm.
Take out the context sensitive streets part.
Yeah, I agree, 100%.
Good page 10.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can work on this slide.
And having the Safer Streets Littleton logo on there implies that you're making a recommendation about what Safer Streets Littleton should look like. So I like having that logo on there because that's what you're talking about.
Is it?
Yeah, and so we've gone from the high level, which says, hey, we started looking at Vision Zero. Got some great ideas in there. We also realized that Safer Streets Littleton is more relevant to what we need. And here's what we think the goals and objectives of Safer Streets Littleton is.
So.
These are the goals.
I know that might sound silly, but kind of to this goal and objective of Safer Streets Littleton, I know that this is the logo that we are seeing currently. How would you feel about bringing up the idea of expanding or like coming up with a phase 2 or like a next iteration of this logo? Because to me, it's the Colorado license plate, so it's focusing on car safety, and we don't, but us, like Safer Streets Littleton is focusing on, you know, really emphasizing our people walking and biking. And there's no sort of indication of that mode of transportation in this sort of logo.
It's not in the name.
I know, again, it's a silly sort of kind of nitpicky type of nuanced thing.
I think that's something we can handle on the
But-
staff side though.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that might be, the upper division.
I don't know if it's something like, if we like.
I'll give you the
have-
background.
Okay,
Well, not.
okay, never mind. Sorry to bring
You're
it up.
fine, you're fine.
Let's take it back.
Steps.
I just know if we can bring it to city council and then they're like, yes, and then we like are stuck to that.
Yeah. That's the next level, that's the next level. Okay, so, we got through that one,
Favor Michael.
number two. Michael, is this Michael?
It can be.
You guys hash it out.
You had a personal sidewalk
is
experience, did you not?
And yet, and I keep, and I keep bugging Aaron about it. He goes, oh, don't. I mean, sidewalks are huge. you know.
What I'm hearing. Because you could also do like Dave take the first three and then Michael, you take the last three too.
Sure, that'll be fine, yeah.
Yeah, that works. Okay. A couple quick comments from staff. Brent requested that we say citizens instead of residents. Do y'all have a preference?
That's fine.
And then say and instead of but. So.
Yes.
Sidewalks for all citizens and especially for vulnerable users. Okay. Okay. Oof. Oh, this is a whole conversation.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Okay, so the bullet point number 2, revert. It has been a week, I am so sorry. Refers to the city sidewalk program. So Aaron asks, is there a plan to provide any info on what the city's current sidewalk program directs? Brent asked what program? So just some history. He did receive CDBG funding, which is federal funding, and did do a sidewalk program. And these funds are very specific of where they can and can't go. It's all for low income population. So that's like one specific part of Littleton qualifies. So from 1993 to 2021, overall it was 3.5 million to widen sidewalks in low and moderate income neighborhoods. They can only be used in these neighborhoods and it's only enough for about 1,500 feet.
2 blocks, right?
So that's about 2 blocks, one side of 2 blocks. So, or one whole block, not
A year.
not a lot. Yes, and the widening program was successful for 30 years. The final project will be the Slaughterhouse Gulch Phase 1 project, which is being implemented this year. Going forward though, council is directing these CDBG funds that we have access to on an application base through Arapahoe County to more social programming. So we will not have any specific funds dedicated towards sidewalks, other than we have a small fund for ADA upgrades, which is only $100,000 per year.
Is that mostly those little curb dips that with the raised dots on them? Is that
Yeah, so-
mostly where the money
Yeah,
goes?
typically, yeah, so we only have 100,000 in our budget, and so we usually put it into our miscellaneous concrete budget, which is just upgrading non-compliant curb ramps. So that they are directional, there's a lot of specifications, but they're directional, and then they have the tactile warning surfaces.
So I feel like the key points here the council's job is to allocate funds. Key points are, we had a grant funded program that's ended. And it's been focused on specific neighborhoods, and it may require future funding.
Because it's so small,
Right.
and I think this is a worthwhile thing to look at.
No, there's more to it than that. There is also a city program where as a homeowner, you can apply for city help. And it excludes HOAs. So when we have all of these first floor commercial, residents above or residents behind, they cannot apply for those funds.
And that would also include like a subdivision that has an HOA.
Right.
And I believe, because this came up at Meet, Greet, Eat, that technically those funding are for full sidewalk replacement, not necessarily repairs. So we had a resident, we don't have to get into the weeds of that, but yeah, there's very specific regulations of what that funding.
It's really weird. I guess that's really where I was going with this. in terms of reviewing, refresh the city sidewalk program is that there are these inconsistencies and gaps in the program. And it's more than just widening a few city blocks of stuff. It's giving people, I mean, council has allocated some funding for this residential program. We need to look at growing that.
I mean, so that we had our first budget meeting for this year at our last study session earlier this week. And the message has been clear that really the action in the budget for the next 3 years is around capital, because we don't have any more operating funds. In fact, our tax revenues are kind of flat. And so, you know, what you're really trying to say is, you guys have this list of plans that have for $90 million worth of capital investment. You need to add sidewalks to that list of plans that you've put out. And there's a regulatory part to that as well. And that's really where you're at.
Okay. We're good?
So did that answer staff's question?
Yeah, I think so. And I just wanted to give you guys that background.
I appreciate
Yeah.
that. Because, you know, when we see gaps in the sidewalk network, we wanna see those addressed too. I
Totally.
mean, if you're walking down the sidewalk and it suddenly ends, like I was watching, I think this is Littleton, but as I drove down County Line Road from, going west, from Broadway, there's a nice sidewalk and it's, you know, good. It goes past the Mission Hills Baptist Church. It goes, past the light and it ends abruptly, at the.
And it has a nice little sign telling you that the sidewalk ends.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's other places like that. And so it would be nice to have, money to look at those things. So that if we're encouraging people to walk, that there's actually a sidewalk, a safe sidewalk for them to be on.
And also in that whole sidewalk program, there's inconsistency. I mean, if you have a raised part of a half an inch, you can get help as a homeowner, right? But it has to have sunk a full inch. Wait, so if I'm going this way.
Yeah, that's what, we had a resident that was talking about with like tree roots that lifted it, but the way that it lifted technically didn't qualify, which you're going, what do you mean that doesn't qualify? It's a tripping hazard, so, yeah.
It's this whole, we need to revisit and clean it up.
Are you just supposed to grind those off? Is that what the city does? Is there a big grinding machine? Cause
No, cause I think they're concrete, you know, and I'm a planner talking engineer speak, but I'm pretty sure they have to just re-level the whole panel.
They did some grinding in my neighborhood.
I've seen some of it, yeah.
Okay.
Up to a certain height they can grind,
Yeah,
and then
And
a
you
certain
can't-
age.
right.
Yeah.
yeah. All right,
So sidewalks, but that gets.
Okay, all right.
Multimodal and.
gotcha. All right. Okay, let's keep ticking.
Okay, this is still you, Dave.
Oh,
We've got a lot of words on it.
It does.
Do you care with the change of, instead of shares, articulates? Anyone have an issue with that?
I'm good with that.
it looks smarter.
It's an SAT word.
Can I make a suggestion before you go on? In my mind, this slide, you do not read every word. It's the concept, like
Right,
communication.
yes.
We need to inform our citizens, we need to keep them up to date, we need to be front and center in front of them all the time, helping them understand what's going on.
And we need to use all of our
And
tools.
here's some ideas. Read fast.
All of our tools. Everybody,
That's my
which is what we
suggestion.
said earlier. It's not silos, it's everybody.
Yeah.
Should we strike Vision Zero Network? I don't think we were all in on that earlier.
Yeah, this is a really
I think we
wordy
can
slide.
learn from it, I don't think it,
Yeah,
he's not gonna read the bullet, so.
yeah, I think you should maybe consider getting rid of bullets 2 and 3. Because there's just too many words and, I mean, I think we're sort of lost in the,
If we get rid of the bottom half of bullet 2, and maybe the second line on another, I think it'll still communicate, but not look as.
Yeah, and bullet 4, like you could just end at other community benefits. Hard stop.
Yeah, that's fine. Or put it down in the notes if Dave wants to touch on 1 or 2 or something.
Okay, sorry,
Is the
what
first
were the
one-
other
Is
ones?
the first one even necessary? I mean, that's already happening, right? It was in the paper today. I mean, that's,
I wonder if we can combine these two.
Yeah.
yeah, that'd be fine, sure.
Releases and updates, just say releases and updates. And then.
Urban Safer Streets, Littleton.
Yeah.
Including,
No, just stop there.
Just Safer streets. Littleton. There you go. Now I can
And do we really need to say coordinate with DRCOG, CDOT, RTD, peer agencies and Vision Zero?
Well, we gotta say some.
Stakeholders?
Um,
Well, coordination is different from
Yeah.
communication.
yeah,
Right.
we can say, if you wanna shorten, you could say coordinate with local, regional.
so are we gonna coordinate our communication with them or, are we gonna, I mean, that's why I'm not sure that that's necessary. It feels like,
I see what you mean.
you know, it's just a lot of words.
Reverting back to being a communication goal. Coordinating.
When we use the terminology safety champions, maybe we can make that refer to like regional safety champions. Or like the agency, so that way, yeah, Vision Zero is one of them, DRCOG is another one. But maybe we wanna reach out to like Colorado Springs because they got their awesome program that's going as well.
Yeah.
We don't wanna kind of hog tie ourselves. We thought.
I don't know. You tell me. It's your message. Well, it's our message. I don't mean to say that, but I don't know how you want to tell our story. If you think that coordination helps tell our story, leave it on there by all means. But again, I don't want to, eyes will begin to glaze over at a certain point, and the more that we, you know, we want simple messages delivered simply.
I think the coordination side of it is more that so that we try and make sure our message is in line with the message that other entities.
Yeah.
Well, you go back to that slide.
Yeah, sorry.
The question is really, is the key thing about coordinating or is it about learning, sharing and implementing new ideas? Those are you got two different ideas there. So you've just said, Dave, your most important thing is that we stay on the same page. So, which is coordinate, and then I would just say coordinate with peer agencies and then drop the rest.
Yeah.
Or is it more important to learn, share and implement new ideas from, and that could be another, I guess I just recommended 2 bullets, which I think is lame. I mean, that was a bad idea on my part.
Well, let's face it, the slide is communication program and learning and sharing. Learning and implementing is not.
That's true.
Yeah, true. That's a different thing. That's partnering with working with our partners, which somewhere we talk about.
Okay. I got rid of it.
All right.
I'm gonna put it in the notes so I don't lose it though, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think, there we go.
I think that's fine, yeah.
And I think that each of us, as we go back through and prepare ourselves for this meeting, we want to look through the notes and be sure that we're clear about what is the message that we want to deliver on each one. I think, Jeff, you said it earlier, we never want to read slides to people, but we want to communicate the message on each one. And so having that clarity in our own mind, I think will allow us to communicate it better.
That's death by PowerPoint.
Committed.
Okay, on this one, it originally just said the traffic calming evaluation, and we wanted to know if you wanted to add the school zone safety evaluation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they're 2 different things, add it.
And then
This one's yours, by the way.
Yep, I'll
the
take it.
second one, review and update speed limits surrounding school zones. So we are looking at this as part of our school zone evaluation.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's okay. If you're reinforcing it and the recommendation comes out, it adds weight to the recommendation. So I wouldn't drop that.
Alright, that's fair.
Yeah, we'll have covered the review, but not necessarily the like implementation of it, right? So, okay, that's all the comments that.
I don't know, every one of those bullets I think is important and central to what our message is.
Yeah.
It is too wordy, but that's okay. I mean, if you know, we want,
I did wonder if the last bullet should be elevated. I don't know, I feel like that's a really, of the ones up there.
yeah, I like that. Yeah, to elevate it, because it is a big deal for us.
Right.
And it's a change. I know everybody here, both here and on council, applauds or welcomes.
Okay,
This was hard one.
Yeah.
How do we lead the horse to water? It's yours now.
Well, you are, just looking at the fourth bullet, the prior one said increased coordination with Littleton Public Schools, so I don't know if you need to repeat that.
True.
And then, you know, Littleton Police Department is technically part of the organization. And so this was the one place I had feedback, like, what does that mean? What does that bullet mean around coordination within?
Well, just like when we had officers come speak with us and they've been to city council meetings, I think that's what we were thinking, just
Getting just.
continuing that engagement and.
And communication.
Okay, great.
But
If
I
you-
guess to your point, you're saying that happens because
No, no, no,
they're
no.
embedded in the staff.
But you just gave two concrete examples of what that means to you.
Okay.
And so that's great. I'm not,
We also, later on, we talk about our priorities or our steps, or I forgot which section it's in. We talk about the idea of this whole like, this needs to be system-wide, right, throughout the city.
Yep.
I think that's what you're talking about as well, right, is like, this can't be something that happens in Littleton. He's like, yeah, they're doing that cute little thing over there. If he's not on board, this doesn't help. It doesn't work.
I'm wondering if this bullet point needs to say increase coordination,
Across all city departments?
right?
You have an opinion on that, Robert?
no, I don't have an opinion. As long as you know what it means. I didn't know what it meant. As soon as I asked that question, Mike had an answer. So that's great. So, but if you want
Yeah,
to.
but to Kenneth's point, I mean, yeah, why stop there?
Yeah,
You know?
Single them out.
I mean, like our planning, I mean, land use and transportation planning is huge, like solution to safety, and so we should be coordinating with the
Let's do that.
planning department, we should be coordinating.
You can say like,
Everybody.
Especially the.
right, yeah, we can call them out if you want.
I think if we call them out, there's potential that it could cause unneeded conflict.
Mhm. I hear your sensitivity, but I have not felt that sensitivity from so far with my engagements.
Well, and I think it goes back to what we were saying earlier, where enforcement aspects of it, right? And so they're an integral part of getting this whole thing going forward.
Yeah.
So bullet 2, saying vision 0, do we want to change that?
Probably.
Yeah, in both places it's you.
And can we just replace it with the Littleton program we have been keying in on?
Well, actually, that's what it says, expand
Expand it.
Littleton program to
I
include.
mean, would it not be including like the principles?
Principles, I think.
Of.
Right.
The second way it was, yeah, so.
Maybe delete this first one and then say and promote principles. That.
Well, it really is promote the goal of safety, right? I mean, you could just even bring it up one level, safety and.
True.
I like principles of just. People. I think they're more complex.
So like this.
Definitely less words, which is improvement.
Did you all want to keep Littleton Police Department listed or no?
I'm okay taking it off. I think
Take it off.
making it a, universal throughout Littleton's government departments is what we really wanna.
Increased coordination, how about across city departments?
Yeah. And I think Michael, during the presentation, can always give that example of PD coming in.
Sure.
So can I push on bullet point even two even more?
Yeah, I'm having a hard time with number 2 also.
What do we actually wanna do there? Like, use whatever words you want, vision zero, not vision zero, like, what are we thinking?
I mean, I think what Dave and I talked about, the website was put together, it promotes, the activities that are happening now, and we thought, let's take it a step further with, with the Vision Zero principles, I guess.
Are you sure it doesn't already include those?
I mean, what I think, what I
Good
think,
point.
what I think you just said was expand the campaign and website and cities outreach through social media and everything between website and city's social media is not.
Sure.
What if we took that first 5 words, expand safer streets, Littleton campaign, and kind of made that the statement and then included and separated the website and stuff as actions to take place, so that way we're talking about, okay, what's the next step of safer streets, Littleton, and how do we?
So what would that look like on the screen?
I would actually, you're right, you actually almost could, if you look at most of them, we aren't really telling the how. Right, expand Safer Streets Littleton campaign, increase community engagement, but we're not really saying how to do it. And so, but by saying with the website to do this, we're adding a how, where none of the other bullets really have it.
So it's website, it's social media.
I would just get rid of it, just expand Safer Streets Littleton campaign.
Okay.
Like it.
Yeah. Again, and those are things that the presenter can add.
Yeah.
If somebody asks, well, how?
Right, what do you mean?
Say, well, website, social media are a couple that are very important.
And then there's also just the crutch of, that's not my job, like, that's communications. I mean, it's seriously though, like we're.
That's why we keep you
We're not
around.
supposed to be experts on every single one of these things, like, that's what we think needs to be done, we don't know exactly how to do
No,
it.
that's true.
That's why we have staff experts.
Yeah.
And that's why we have bullet points.
But we've recognized in our discussion that this is a big change. It's a behavioral change. And we even talked about it, sort of changing the culture of the city to say, hey, we value safe transportation and that the safer feeling. We're not sure how to get there, but we know we want it. We think it's
You know, it's important.
Yeah, and it's gonna take a while to do it.
It's gonna take a buy-in.
There's
by
no
a
switch.
lot of people.
We haven't found the switch to turn on, but we know, here's some things that need to happen.
So one thing Emily and I were talking about today is that we don't necessarily mention like a Safe Routes to School program anywhere in here. And we didn't know if that's something
Safer routes
that,
to school, yeah.
yeah, if that's something you all would want to propose, and if so, this was potentially an area. This might be getting away from the intent of this, but we wanted to bring it up.
We have some images of like some of the signage that you've used for that.
Oh,
that
I'll
we
bet
can
they
just-
do.
Yes.
So that way we can still have it there, and if they wanna talk about it, we can, but if they just wanna see it, we can also still have it there, but not have to
Right.
focus on it.
Is that a component of Safer Streets Littleton?
So we don't have like a formal Safe Routes to School program currently. We're doing a lot of Safe Routes to School type work, but we don't have like an official program called Safe Routes to School necessarily.
So
Feels
that's-
like it
Short,
would-
but short answer, yes.
Yeah.
Safe routes to schools / whatever term we wanna give it, safe routes to, Littleton, safe schools, like the concept is that we want to do programming, education, infrastructure, and all of the,
Which is a lot of
Things.
what we're already doing as part of Safe.
Exactly.
It goes back to where we were talking about having closer relations with LPS.
I will make that too.
I mean, that's, I guess, in terms of the slides, that's where it goes, is with our Littleton Public Schools build up on getting better coordination there and safer school slots in.
So is this Vision Zero goal strategies or Safer Street Littleton?
Yeah, I think it's safer streets. I think,
Projects.
what was that? Designate a champion?
Vision Zero.
Yeah, I wonder if it's,
Safety champion.
I wonder if, is it designate or identify? And you don't want
Yeah.
limit it to one.
Yeah,
Safety champion.
that's the thing that bothers me a little bit about it, is that we just got through saying it's across all departments and programs. What is it that a champion does for us?
Or Safer Streets Littleton.
And does it say, well, you know, Michael, that really was your job, you're the champion.
What do we mean?
Not my problem.
Well, and if I remember correctly, we do talk about like the succession of these champions and stuff later on in the presentation too.
So in my mind, the safety champions are people who advocate for these safety principles in the meetings and, you know, in the work and it's, you know, and what we're trying to say is that we value those people's voices in the work.
Interesting. I interpret it as in the community, identifying champions in the community that are kind of grassroots broadcasting the message, right? Like, what if there's a safety champion in every school? So you have a, you know, a student.
Yeah, maybe it's develop safety champions in.
Could that be
I was gonna say, could there be like either a two-pronged approach or a phased approach of like, let's try it out internally with city staff, like figuring out a programming with, I found one in California of a traffic safety like champions program, you know, try and figure out the structure of what it looks like. And once we've kind of worked through the challenges, then we take it public and be like, okay, now let's find our grassroots people. Let's find those people at our schools, in our communities, our churches, our community centers that are wanting to be champions too.
Sure.
We've already got some with the cycle Littleton.
Right.
Sure.
Oh, yeah, there's natural
I
connection.
think I understand where you're going and how you're trying to present that, so that's one of the ways we're going to incorporate safer streets across the city. I get it.
So now I'm the one who suggested the word identify and maybe it's support safety champions.
Support, develop.
Would it be identify and support?
Sure. I'm just saying my original correction was original suggestion.
Yes, you can have another candy.
That graphic rode right off the screen.
Sorry, I found it and I just did not I wanted to insert it before I lost it, so.
It just pedaled right across the screen.
All right, okay, so then this is
Summary.
So we said what we were gonna tell you, we told you, and now we're telling you what we told you.
Yeah.
Do we need it? Just going back, you wanna say it all again?
I think it depends on how much time you got. Like, if you've run out of time, you're like, here's a summary.
We just went over all of this.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the next one. We didn't invalidate anything on this.
oh, sorry, one, I guess, comment that Brent had made. What does this mean? Who is leadership? I think we added city leadership. I don't know. To me, that makes sense. City leadership.
Yeah, I mean, that's the city manager and the council, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. You Now that he just got promoted, you're like, you dude.
Yeah, he's part of that.
Brent, that was Brent sorry. It's very fun having two Brents.
Oh,
It's
that's
not a very
Brent
common name, so that was Brent Thompson.
Okay.
Yeah. We're all Brent Thompson
It's a
and.
bad sign when someone doesn't know who their boss is.
My boss is Aaron, that's all I need to know. Okay, priorities.
The fast line, but leadership.
Who's presenting?
Thank you.
Oh, was that your line?
Who did the priorities?
Wasn't this, Matt's?
This might have been Matt and I, but I don't remember. Some of these don't seem familiar.
Isn't it funny how you send stuff in and then you don't recognize it? I did that earlier. The heck, who came up? Oh, that was me.
This was us. Now, I feel like something got tweaked, but now I get it.
Begin with the begin.
So, I mean, what we said here was our highest priority should be beginning on the behavioral and cultural change. It is the biggest lift. It's gonna be, it's gonna take the longest amount of time, but ultimately it has the potential to have the highest impact. And so that was what we were trying to get to there,
Okay.
saying that should be our first priority. or
Okay.
Council's first priority. Then the next should be the active transportation network. Focusing on most vulnerable roadway users first, so if you're trying to prioritize, like,
So not the most vulnerable, the most vulnerable roadway users. Got it. Okay, yep.
the most vulnerable users. we
The
should
very
say.
young, the very
Big
old.
roadway
Yep.
distracts it.
Okay.
And then we're going
Those
conduits.
with bad eyesight?
We were trying to avoid arterials because it did cause so much consternation in the
Yeah.
last meeting. So we came with conduits. I forgot about this. Yes, conduits is our term, which also has other meanings as well. So what did we use in the other slide? We came up with something. I can't remember what it was.
I think we just deleted it and said.
Bikeways? No.
Well, so this was part, I mean, and I feel like we talked about this a little bit. This was the idea we talked about was, and not to go back an hour and like drag us down to this. But the idea was, if we can create these primary active routes,
Yeah.
even if people can't, are kind of unsafe getting from their house to them right now, that will start to radiate out, right? But at least you've got the primary routes going. And so,
I get the vision and I like it. I mean, let's not get hung up on the words. The idea is a good thing. We wanna be able to get to a place where we can go miles without worrying about our safety on a bike and
So would it be creation of bicycle and pedestrian priority streets? Do you think that gets to what you were,
priority routes.
priority routes, okay?
Well, didn't you use the word network earlier? Did you use that word?
Yeah.
And that may have went on with the bathroom.
Creation of networks that prioritize bicycle and pedestrian travel.
I think we wanna say arterials.
I think I hear somebody calling you outside.
I know this is
Alright.
kind of a small thing, but can we get rid of the numbering and turn those into bullets? We do
Yeah.
know that the ones at top are,
Yeah.
key, but I don't want, like, if there's an easier thing to get done, that's lower on the list.
Sold.
Yep.
Good point.
So just speaking to it, saying that
Yeah.
these are in order of what we see as the priorities, but there also needs to be opportunistic.
Yes.
And it's not, I mean, it's not linear. I mean, like, it's not a
No.
one
No,
begets the
no,
other.
no, too much, come on. Can I
Alright.
quit it?
I was just.
Let him talk. Okay,
Uh,
less words, not more.
So Aaron had asked, what does highest effort mean?
highest effort, where you,
Cost, priority, most work to do. I think the way you explained
it's a
it
combination of all, it
is
is,
all of it.
that is going to be the biggest lift, I think. Like, that is one of the hardest things to do. Like, because it requires so many different dimensions to it. Right?
Yeah.
It is going to, I mean, I don't know if it's gonna cost the most, like from a pure financial point of view, but there's still gonna be a lot of resources that go into it.
Yeah.
It's gonna take a lot of attention. And it has to be maintained. Like, you can't just like stand up once and like have fireworks and say, everybody be safe now. And then like walk away,
It's the
like.
hardest to measure.
Well, and I love that because really the technology of the cities is planning and building roads and hiring police officers. And you're saying it's more than just your day-to-day technology. It's a bigger thing, and it gets, I love your perspective, and I think it's really valuable.
Is there a way to also say it might be the highest reward too?
Well, it's
Highest impact.
Highest impact.
Does that work for you?
I think so. I'm just
Yeah.
playing it.
No. I mean, if you think, like,
I was just thinking of like,
Think
what's
of
the
a word.
best like word that like, because sometimes you see impact and you're like, maybe you're not thinking of a positive.
And this impact a bad pun because.
Yeah.
Like a bad impact.
See what you mean.
Unfortunately, we can go down different routes with like our little bike that just.
Matt and I can speak for Matt here, we were thinking highest impact being, like, if you do it right, it has the most, the meaningful.
Biggest payoff or
Biggest
something?
payoff.
And I think.
So should that be
Highest leverage?
Say that, so
benefit?
it'll work.
Yeah, yeah, you almost are safer to verbalize most of that, but that'll help you to remember how to present it.
Okay.
Yeah, I get you.
And then, so the next thing, and again, this is where, feel free to push back if you don't like these, by the way, but I feel like we talked about some of these. And it gets back to what we were talking about before with the Vision Zero, like, we're not saying, don't pay attention to Santa Fe. Like, all efforts need to be pulled, all resources pulled off of Santa Fe and Mineral and put into our school zones. We have to continue, we have to keep working on everything, right? Like, it's not an option.
That's right.
I have a clarification question. So active transportation network plan. Were you intending that you are saying, hey, the city should do an active transportation plan, or just creation of a network and we will find the way that we want to do
We
it?
need to have a plan.
Okay.
We
So
shouldn't just go randomly pick one street and say,
No,
that's now our
no,
new
no.
corridor. Like, we should have a plan.
I guess my question is your recommendation that we need to have a separate bicycle and pedestrian plan? Or, because I think we've talked about this, that we had a previous bicycle and pedestrian master plan that from 2011, that's very out of date. The TMP superseded it with our active transportation chapter as part of the TMP. So I guess my question is, are you saying we need to go have a separate plan, or can this be rolled into the TMP effort? Do you care?
I'll answer my
I think it can.
question. I think it should be part of the TMP.
Yes, I think it
okay.
can and it should.
Within the TMP, we
Yeah.
should say like, this is what the active transportation
Yeah.
network looks like within our
Okay.
overall network.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify.
No, that's good. I think we talked about that before, that
Yeah.
we're not gonna create a different plan.
Right.
And it's after all the actions that matter. So yeah, if you wanna say active transportation network plan, or TMP, put it in there. Put the initials TMP in there.
It is in there.
You've got the TMP in the other one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So we could actually move, like,
think
we
you
could
could.
probably
Mhm.
take 2 and 4 and combine them into one sort of
Yep.
bullet of update and incorporate safety action plan and active transportation network
got it.
elements within.
All right.
Alright. And then, and then we talked about the LPS thing, so that's where, do we think that's one of our highest priorities, or?
Which one is?
Everything else, LPS.
Yes, it is.
I think it'll be one of the easiest to achieve.
What do you think about that, Robert?
I think the interesting thing about this is that it is also, the LPS is also a political organization as well. And so in some ways, as part of our community outreach, making this a priority for the board is important. The school district, this was not a priority when I was on the board. And so, I guess keep it up is really what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, it's good. We need to make sure that they consider it a priority.
Yeah.
We do.
And unfortunately, this is very good timing to make that a
Yeah.
permanent.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's why we're doing it. Leverage it. Yeah.
Who is covering priorities?
The It's either me or Matt, and I guess since Matt's not here,
Okay,
I guess I could volunteer Matt.
Take
I
it
was gonna say, you can either take it or you can divvy it up. You can take it or you can hand it up.
that's exactly right. Yeah, you
I'll
can.
take, I'll take it, it's fine. Matt will weigh in, I guarantee it. Like, will someone bring some duct tape? There's no way he's not saying something.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so then we go into next steps.
That
So,
was Derek and I
and
on that.
I kind of had the same question with the safety action plan.
Yeah.
Are you thinking this would be a separate, or would it be under the umbrella of the TMP?
We just talked about that. The priorities,
Yeah, it's a subset of the TMP.
safety action plan.
And if you want it to be if you want to call it out, independently, which may be a good thing, shouldn't it be subsumed under the TMP as a sub-bullet?
I think a sub-bullet would be really good because we'll still be able to put emphasis on it. This is the first thing in the TMP we wanna see worked on.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Does that mean you're taking the slide?
Sure. Yeah, I'll take it.
So we,
And then
you do,
maybe
again,
close this out with the last couple or
Can
what?
I ask a question on this one then? Yeah. Given that we all just agreed with my statement from the last one, that trying to figure out how to start affecting behavior and culture is one of the first things we should work on. Should that be under one of the next steps?
What do you do with that?
That's why it's hard.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not an expert in any of this stuff.
We don't have a mechanism in place that is trying to engage in that currently with the city. Like, we have parts and pieces and departments that are taking, parts and pieces, but there's nothing like a transportation master plan that is just solely dealing with that. It's all gonna be parts of these elements.
I think the culture component starts with an understanding of what you wanna have. How do we want the culture of Littleton to be different? Kind of what are the indicators of that culture being different? And then once we get a vision of what that difference, and I have a vision in my head of like, everybody knows that if a person in the crosswalk, you stop no matter what. Like, that's one of the cultural changes really important to me. And if you have that vision for what the culture looks like, then you can think about what are the steps we take to get to that cultural change.
And question for the planners, can that actually be a safety action plan where it's purely the communicative, the cultural, the outreach element?
I mean, if we're talking a safety action plan that we want to be eligible for future federal funding opportunities, no. We would wanna have more than just that. We would need to have like data analysis that identifies like projects and things, and it'd need to be a little more comprehensive than just that.
Asking whether
But
it's a
it-
component.
But it would be absolutely, it would be,
It sounds like it's literally gonna be a piece of everything that we do.
yes.
I feel like part of what you're saying, maybe it doesn't belong in the next steps, but is keep your eyes on that prize.
Yeah.
The prize is a culture of safety and that prize is more than planning, it's more than enforcement, it's all those things together.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah.
Maybe that's the next step. The first next step is committing to doing exactly that.
What's that next slide beyond this? Cause I'm confused about, we have,
Two piles of next steps. What's our next step?
yeah, because go to the next slide because
What's our next
So
step?
I was going to say, I did the same thing that I did with the goals and objectives, where I put them all into a summary slide, and then there's individual slides with more information. So I can either get rid of this or move it to the end or keep it.
So, well, our original intention was we were gonna hit this as like a quick presentation and then dive into these tangible changes.
Oh, I get you. Okay. So we certainly don't need to put everything, on that, previous slide.
That's just kind of teeing up the ones that follow.
Yeah.
And honestly, for our slide count, it might take 30 seconds, possibly a little more if Michael.
When you guys moved, in the prior section, you moved that to the end.
It's like a recap,
as a
right?
Recap.
And originally, the safety action plan was above transportation master plan, but it's, yeah, I flipped it, if that makes sense.
I'm okay moving the previous slide to the end like we did in the other section. Then you just jump right into the next steps and the meat of it.
Yeah.
And how many are there?
Yeah. Let's keep ticking through this because this may be too dense for what we're trying to do.
I mean, do we?
I plan on-
For every,
Summarizing it when I present it.
Yeah.
Just kind of doing a quick, here's the thing, but I want to give them something to dive into. They also do it in the interest of also people that are not in person but distant.
Remember the stuff we said, like, you know, you've got 27 slides, like, you don't need to spend, 5 minutes on each slide. Some of these, especially for like a next step, you just quickly move through.
Ultimately, I want to get to questions. And it's like, okay. The team is here, do you want to dive into what you just went into? And then I want to have this as stuff that they can chew on.
I think,
A lot of this is repetitive, isn't it?
I think you could just do one single next steps slide.
Maybe.
Because
And maybe all the bullets is discussion
it's
and
just
not just
available.
text
you
on the
know?
screen.
Maybe I can just hide the slide like we've done with
Yeah,
other
put it-
ones. So
put
if
it
we have
in
to
the-
pull it up, we can.
Because honestly, I don't, there's no way we can get through all of this.
Like, if
I
they
get your
ask, oh, what
point.
revisions would you make to the
We
draft?
want to give them some,
And you'll see that.
meat, but it probably belongs in the footnote section, behind, and just hit it at a top level and say, hey, the next steps are, and present it as bullet points, and then you can talk through some expansion of that, but then let them get just the top level, and then they can question what's more.
Yeah, and can we make it to where, because each council member is gonna get a packet, right?
yeah, this will all be mailed out to us and we'll all.
Because it's like, if it's not on the screen, I would still think it would be important that the council gets the packet of everything for reading, including the hidden slides, but they would know this is what's being presented, and then they can read with, and then when we present that information, because this will be posted as part of the council agenda,
That's right.
that people can also do that as a way to go back and see what we just talked about.
So I think the most important, I agree with everything you guys are saying. The most important thing is including a slide after number 25 that says, what are these slides for? So so it's like background information or further information, or just, because when all the council reads it, they're gonna get to all these other meaty, just give them instructions on how to interpret those slides. That's all I'm saying.
I don't know if we care about these questions if we're not presenting them, but.
Go ahead, try us.
Okay, I guess, let me go back.
Got 2 minutes.
Okay, what is meant by guidance, staff guidance?
Derek, what do you got?
And maybe it's
I'm not sure.
It's just direction, maybe?
It's what we talked about in the very beginning, making sure that all of the various entities within the city are
In
prioritizing.
an earlier slide, you called it coordination. Around safety.
I don't think it's coordination of that.
Oh,
I
okay.
think that's different.
Okay.
I might have thinking about that wrong.
personally like
I mean, I think
that
this,
better than.
to my mind, this is you and
It's one of those, I
city
don't care
manager
what's
basically
before.
saying
Yeah,
like,
I understand what you're saying. I think it's fine.
safety is an important part of all.
Or maybe it's messaging.
And again,
That's
master
what you-
design plans, I think we typically call them corridor study sub-area plans, but you just mean like planning
That was
studies.
what I don't know what your guys' terminology for your larger plans are.
Yeah, it's.
I think we can just say design plans.
There you go, okay.
Steps to be
And,
second.
and you're thinking, Derek, of new design plans so that safety is built in,
At some point, like safety.
and I think it,
It would be
to a
like,
certain extent it already is, but.
here's the Santa Fe project, here's the Santa Fe specific.
It's just crazy.
I mean,
It's a plan.
Derek, are you taking next steps?
in that you also
Okay,
say,
perfect. And then quickly,
take safety in consideration.
Aaron asked about LPS, will there be more detail provided on what we need from this partner moving forward? I don't think so, right? I think your purview is to say, hey, we need more information, and it's staff's job to.
Yeah, that's right, not from us.
Right, resolved, say that.
No, I hear what-
Again, for police, do we need to indicate needing more than one parking enforcement person? Again, I think that's a staff
It's a
recommendation.
recommendation to leadership, how they're supposed to.
We're just asking the question.
And then Brent asked, continue engaging with city council to advocate. You mean TMB to continue engaging? Who's continuing to engage?
I think it's the trusted partners.
Or the safety champion.
The safety champions, this would be like Robert.
I would say continue to advocate for transportation safety
Yeah.
and get rid of the engaging city council. Just what you want is continuous advocacy for
There
transportation.
you go, I like that.
Ooh.
Continue to advocate for transportation safety and promote a culture of safety throughout all city councils' endeavors.
Throughout all of the city's endeavors.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, yeah. Because there's only a few council people.
And council is really a ephemeral thing, right?
Yeah.
We're gonna get a new if things work out, we'll have a new council member this year with Gretchen's intentions work and council members come and go.
Michael, just a quick question. Do you want to present any of these topics with me? Because that was a very rapid fire question on, since we cut 4 to 1.
I can unless,
And I'm okay doing it, but I don't, if you have a subject you want to present, I don't want to take that away.
no, that's all right. I mean, I think it makes sense because it's gonna be essentially one slide, so we're not both getting up there.
And you had some slides earlier in the thing, so they'll hear
You
all
good
of
with
our
that?
voices.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, fine.
I mean, it's my vision that we're gonna be sitting around this table, Kenna's gonna be pushing the button, moving the slides. And you guys aren't gonna stay, it's not gonna be whack-a-mole, it's just gonna be talk talk in the circle.
Oh, okay.
That's very nice. Are we doing it in here or in there?
That'll be in there,
In there, okay. But down on the,
that's right.
we're not gonna be elevated to the, or
The flip side is, no, you won't be elevated. I mean, the whole point is to have us all around the table, we're at the same level, because when we're up at the dais, that's just.
Nice.
Heck,
yeah.
That could be a.
Hammer it in.
No, it's.
Sure.
All right, we've lost control now. So, let's try to, as if we ever had it. Would you be kind enough to take us to the beginning and just, without comment, let's just tick through, and say who is going to present which slide? So,
Tom,
me,
Tom,
okay,
Tom. I guess Kelly, you're starting, so you get,
Kelly starts here.
we're skipping the slide. Kelly. We're skipping the slide.
Well, if we're skipping it, can we put it into the detail section so that it doesn't?
Yeah.
We'll know that it's available if we need to go to it.
How many?
Okay. Okay, Kelly. Kelly.
Well, but there's nothing to say on the background side, right? Yes,
Yeah,
okay.
no, you switch.
Okay.
You're saying, I'm doing.
Turn your mic on, that's all.
I am now gonna provide some background.
Okay. Tom.
Okay. Maybe okay. And Kelly, maybe you want to do the one after, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, we can see how it balances out.
Okay.
But yes, I have one.
All right.
Dave. Michael. Summary slide.
Michael.
Cause he's up.
Jeff, because then you go into priorities. Eric.
And you're gonna put in a slide after 21 that says appendix for additional detail or just
Yeah, I can.
something that tells people what they should do for those extra slides.
And with the last slide, can we have discussion, questions?
Yes, and so staff is working on putting together some of our own slides too. Just at the end of how we would implement your recommendations.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
I think we're gonna run out of time.
I think we might run out of time too. I know that we're thinking about it. Okay,
I mean, the point of, this started 6 months ago with asking you guys to tell us what we should do with Vision Zero, and now you're telling us what we should do, and so I think it's important for you to be prepared, because people are gonna ask, what are we already doing? But I'm not 100% sure it'd be a good idea to have slides ready to go.
yeah, I will bring that feedback.
I have a feeling a lot of the questions are going to center around implementation.
Yeah, I agree.
So, right, like, I don't think you need slides on it, but my hunch would be there are gonna be questions that staff are probably going to need to answer.
Okay. We're meeting as a team tomorrow to discuss that, so I will bring that recommendation to the team.
Well, I mean, like the sidewalk thing, you know, you can imagine Pam saying, I thought we had a sidewalk fund, this, you know, she's known about the CD.
I hate that acronym.
Funding, and you know, that's when you would say, well, it's over, and yes, we may need to increase our own contributions to that.
So Kenny, you're gonna put this out on the website, so everybody has a chance to review it and look through it, and we'll be ready to go on the 13th.
Yeah, and I'll send this out to the group as well.
Thank you so much.
Email, so.
Appreciate it.
What time on the 13th?
6:30?
6:30?
Yeah, and so my intention is to ask the mayor, I can do a little bit of introduction, and you know, kind of say, we decided that we wanted to, the council decided we wanted to ask the TMB to tell us what we need to do to, or how we should approach implementing Vision Zero. And that's what you guys are coming back to do, and that you want to have a discussion. And I'm going to essentially encourage the council members to interrupt you as we go. Which needs encouragement.
All right. Well, everybody did a super job.
Yeah.
And Emily, thank you for all the help that you've given us, and
Thank you all. This was, you did all this work, so thank you guys.
And I think that's important for you guys to say, like, we did, these are our slides, we did.
These are your words.
These are just fantastic.
okay.
Kind of
I
censored
think
you.
we're adjourned.
Somebody's got it.
Nice, thank you for coming to Littleton. I saw you bringing a bike here.
So we're good for outside.
I take the.
Gotcha.
It'll be probably another, I'll